Alright, guys, I'm here. I was trying to check on sound, figure out the best way to play this because of accents and things, and whatever. We'll figure it out, maybe, on which way can be heard best. But, um, I'm gonna try not to make this long with. I sort of just want to rest. Um, the goofball bullshit last night. This morning, that's too much. The false and rigging abused today, and then to gas motherfuckers up, manipulate them like always, cleansing and chat. Boy, ain't that present. Seen that a lot lately. And then certain little slithers in the background and fuck shit too with that. And I gotta tell you, no advertisement. Well, you can't explain several thousand extra. With zero advertisement, it's a song and bullshit. Mindfuck dance, the oldest time over here, ain't it? Y'all continue onward, though. Anyway, yeah, just to got some idiots left real good. Get them to do their things again. Do the dance. Might get fucking paperless. But anyway, the goofball bullshit just like. And, when I feel well enough, to come back on for, better length, we'll get to the other. But not today, and I probably wouldn't even be here if it weren't for, couple of things I was going over my head, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna yeet the YouTube straight into the, like, fucking sun today. And, I'm just gonna try to relax, and I'm gonna listen to some news. And then it led me down a pathway, and then I had this moment. It's like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Right? It's like, well, I'm sure things have been done, but, you know, also, I did come upon a post today. Looks like one of the assholes, yeah, take another vacation on the pretenses of searching and locating things again. I don't know, is there gonna be a jog around the park again when you get there? Is a drone bought by subs gonna do it and you get a nice little vacay? I don't know. Ryan Jen, fake spirits have a fucking way to find their way to vacay. 3, 4, 5 days. Jumping out for 10 minutes. I don't know. Just saying. But that leads me onward, right? Y'all gotta stop buying these tragedy pimps drones. Y'all gotta stop it. Right? They ain't finding shit. They ain't going to. Most of the time they can't even use them because it's still trespassing. Etc., right? Um, y'all gotta stop. It just helps enable them to continue to call in and further fuck other people. Y'all gotta stop it. You hear me? Stop buying these dumb son bitches drones. So anyway, and I thought, well, seen this title, and I was like, well, alright, we'll do this title because it's of interest, because it's science, and you know, fact-based content, and I know what it is, and I'll play my word games while I listen in the background, and it was like, wait a minute. I think this could be a good example to others on, or those who are unaware, to make them aware that these beautiful minds, technology, professions, and they exist, right? Because they're not often talked about in a broad scope. And I think most people think of these things um, in a way that it only relates to remains um, only, right? And such. But not in the broad manner in which they can be used to do all kinds of beautiful things. Bring together the past and the present and the future and the history and oh, all these things, but also to solve crimes and um, just there's so much, and the application and implication of these science and fact based, things. This lady has all the things, okay? All the things. Um, oh, she amazes me currently. So anyway, and God forbid every time I say about somebody, it fucking comes back to haunt me or bite me in the ass. But anyway, so I was thinking, as a whole, most of the time you only hear about like this. You don't hear about it very often. Anywhere really, not in media, not in court all that often. You don't hear about it. Even on TV shows, they aren't really in things. You don't hear about it all that often. Usually you'll hear ripples of it or instances of these things being used in cases or to solve them, but generally only in the way of um, finding remains and then seeing if bodies have been here, there, moved, where they were initially, all these things. Um, but not in the broader spectrum they can play in the ways they can, and I think, I'm not sure if that's because even sometimes law enforcement agencies may only think about contacting or reaching out to those like this or using these things where it concerns remains. And they don't really think about reaching out otherwise or having things like this maybe done for other purposes other than and to actually, like, I'm not sure if it's that or why, because these things can be used in court in absolute terms, US or UK, sure, in abundance of other places around the world. And they have been known to very much solve and to be used in court and to find, science, man. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm not sure if it's just that, I'm not sure why, but you don't hear about it often. But randomly you do hear about it, and I have for a very long time. It's probably not a new science or field of or any of these, but it's a lot of you'll be aware, but um, I think a lot of people don't think of the scope and manner in which they can be used. And anyway, I just had this moment. It's like, oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is indeed something. And I'm sure the beautiful minds at Feds and LE have thought about these things. But this is something that very much could be used to find and help locate summer, any locations, to narrow down a whole host of things, and even to find the person or persons responsible. But this could very much be used to narrow down um, exactly where summer may be. If what Ellie says is a possibility and still valid, she is possibly close. And it could also be used to narrow down who, what, where, when, and why. Even down to, honestly, times a day. And movements, and for many. Sorry, guys. The cat's like, oh hell no, the coyotes are out early, bitch. Let me in. And I'm a bit on the struggle bus, so I'm a bit slow. And I'll preface this by saying I may have to shut this one down midstream. If so, I apologize, but. And I'll be back later to finish it. Anyway, so back to this, right? I And I hadn't thought about it in a long time, or even I'm sure throughout the years, you know, I know I've thought different things and ways of, but like, and then today I was like, wait, you know, all the ways in which this could be used, right? And, yeah, it's one of those moments, I think, for some of us that, you feel this, like, joy, you're like, oh, it's a thing, I forgot about this thing, and all the thingy things that can be done, and you get sort of excited, like, oh, and you're like, yeah, but I bet all the beautiful minds and shit have already thought of or done all the things, or will, or whatever, you know. Dracula, are you serious on the makeup and stuff? Are you full on serious right now? Of course you're serious. You just like cuddling? Okay, I guess. Hello, buddy. What are you doing? Are them Odies out early? You want to tell the people's hi? You want to tell the people's hi? Just a little. Dragon's like, nah, I'm gonna stay in the shadows. He's like, you telling people's hi for me. Alright. You good then? You gonna lay down about it? He's gonna cuddle about it. Alright. But I mean, you do.
If there's a murder, I need to be there.
You get excited. You're like, oh man, I hope. And then you're like, yeah. They have, or they did, or they will do, or they're waiting, or there's a process, right? And then you wish you had these things at your hands so you could, but you don't, obviously. Um, but anyway, so there's this, um, lady in the UK, and I'll let some of this play. Let me know if you have a hard time understanding or hearing, because how that goes around here. And I'll try to change the way in which I'm playing the audio and whatnot, because her particular accent from the area she's in is a bit hard at first to, you know, it takes me. So, anyway, what did I do? I think I've got a splinter. No, well, alright. Anyway, oh, let's start at 0. Alright.
If there's a murder, I need to be there before they touch.
And here I'm just throwing, maybe it starts, it says, she says, if there's a murder, I need to be there before they touch the corpse. Alright, so play it again.
If there's a murder, I need to be there before they touch the corpse, because I'll approach it too much, because a little bent twig or a footprint in the grass or disturbed leaves or means something to me. When I come to the body and I look at the body.
And I know it's 15 seconds. Ernie, you on your bullshit again. We're not gonna do it. We're not gonna do it. The dark has fallen. Look, your brother's down here. No, we're not. We're not gonna do fuck shit. No. It's not 3 a.m. Zoom Zooms. She's not. Alright. I know it's 15 seconds in. But this lady, who's a professional, right? Buddy, no, just because your brothers, we're not going to play Pop Goes the Weasel. Nobody, and I mean nobody, Ernie, wants to play Pop Goes the Weasel. Your brother is clearly cuddling. Nobody gave you the idea that they might want to play Pop Goes the Weasel, Ernie. Nobody did that. He's going to do it anyway. Alright. Well, anyway. So this lady says,
if there's a murder, I need to be there before they touch the corpse, because or approach it too much, because a little bent
or approach it too much, because a little bent twig
twig
or a footprint in the grass or disturbed leaves
in the grass or disturbed leaves all mean something to me.
all mean something to me. Ernie, don't make me adopt you out. I know you're trying to get your big brother to play. He doesn't want to play. No. Do you hear him? It's the saddest little thing. It's his little perk to try to get everybody else to play Pop Goes the Weasel. We're not doing it, buddy. Nobody wants to play Pop Goes the Weasel right now. Anyway. So, it just has to. Tiny little hurricane he has to. But bro, no. No. He must have thought I was his brother coming in on it. So he just clawed the shit out of me, thinking I was the brother. Oh, man. See your little sad shit face. Oh my god, Ernie. You're so manipulative, man. Hold on just a second, guys. Shit. I think I was muted. Damn it. Now, well, I don't know how long I've been muted. Well, probably since come back. When you say, ah, shit. Alright. Fuck, no, right. That happens to the best of us. I guess it auto muted when I did the. Alright, so this lady's a forensic yeah, ecologist. Alright.
I was born in the Sahara Valley, which is in between the valley of the Ebro and the Rumney, which is next to the Rhondda. So I'm from the mining valleys of South Wales. I didn't realise it, but I was brought up in the country because our valley in particular was rural with the occasional coal mine. And we had the hills and lots of wildness around us with wild horses and the sheep everywhere. And in our village, nobody could have a nice garden because the sheep were always in the garden. They were all
And like I said while muted, fuck sheep. Those things, they don't listen, they talk back. You cannot. I don't know how they do it. They look so pretty and like they behave so well in the UK and all the place. Here, they're a bunch of badasses. Alright? You can't keep them in a fence. They're like, fuck you and your garden. I'm gonna eat it all, right? And I'm gonna eat your neighbor's garden, and you know that they just do all the things, okay? Um, gave up on the sheep thing we did eons ago, but anyway. uh, even my pap was like, this is bullshit. I ain't doing this to these damn sheep. uh, fucking sheep, man. They are true pains in the ass. Cannot recommend. Cannot just, you know what? Who did that? Who did that? Anyway, so this lady, she was talking about the twigs and leaves and direction and all these things. And I don't know where I was muted at or whatever, but and how they matter to her in her field of expertise and how she needs to see them. And it's like they can say these things, it doesn't sound so to the world. The rest of us who have a background, I mean, like, we live in where we'll have the combined farming and hunting and, all these things together. And we're taught to auto look for these things, right? To track animals, wildlife, hunt, even track down other humans that are trespassing, theft, stealing, all this shit, right? And so it comes naturally, without even thinking. I think for an abundance of us here. And like I was saying with Monster, he could pinpoint wheels, and I can too to a certain degree, but not like that. But and exactly which cars and things, just based on little dust in the road, and tread patterns and things. So, you know, you could damn well tell if somebody been in and out, all these other things, just by a little bit of tracking or movement. It's just something you pick up on, right? And changes around and different, I mean, but that, the world will make look sus. Oddly enough. Mm. Anyway, but yeah, I agree with this lady on the sheep. They're dicks.
always sheep wandering up the road. They were everywhere. And in the winter, the horses used to come down on the village green to be fed. So, it was quite wild, really.
Where did your love for botany, plants come from?
The one thing I remember I was delighted with was getting a penknife because we could dig things up. And I found out a lot on my own. But my grandmother used to take me for walks, and we used to look in the hedgerows and look for birds' nests and all sorts of things. And she'd show me what leaves you could eat, what was poisonous, what would hurt you, what wouldn't hurt you. So, I mean, she had a great knowledge.
And I think I was notified I was muted about this point. I find it very cool how, you know, for a lot of Southern families, accent originates from certain parts of the UK and Ireland, this the other, and then you have certain things that transferred over and are still present even now, and that we teach one another and our children, and we were taught, and that includes plants, to survive on, plants for medicine, plants for this, how to find this, that, and the other, still present, and it came across from, so I think it's very cool. I know that it's just, but either way,
Of wildlife from the outside.
I mean, you're aware of that at all times, but I just think sometimes when you hear other people say it, you're like, God, it's still happening. Still a thing. I'm not alone, right? But around here, it's common. Still, I don't think for a great section of the country that's as common. Um, you know, or a lot of people as they forget ties, or they're out of those environments and they're moving to the city and they're doing whatever, so they don't have need of it. They don't pass it on. They don't make sure it's, you know, and I think that's a bad thing, you know. But
And it just rubbed off, I suppose. And I've never, ever not been interested in wildlife, all sorts of wildlife, insects and worms and plants and flowers and everything.
One of the key aspects of your work as a forensic ecologist is the study of pollen. Tell me about how you came to study palynology.
I first learned about palynology as an undergraduate at King's College London. And
uh, um, I think she said it was King's College first. Um, Palynology and archaeology.
One of the key aspects of your work as a forensic ecologist is the study of pollen. Tell me about how you came to study palynology.
I first learned about palynology as an undergraduate at King's College London.
Palynology, the study of spores, pollen, microscopic organisms. King's College.
And we were introduced to them under the microscope and we had to analyse them and so on. And when I saw these pollen grains, the one thing that struck me is how different they all are. But there are similarities with a lot of them. So trying to identify them is quite hard because there are some that all look very similar, but they're different species. Others are quite different. You get to learn them, and people say, well, how do you remember them? Well, it's like learning your friends. I could never mistake you for that lady. I never mistake that lady for that lady. So you get.
It's such a joy often to see people because you can see what those people that have found, like, their way to that saying of if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, right? Who truly love what they do. And that we do not encounter that enough in other people, for sure. But you can always tell them they just exude it. It still excites them no matter how long they've been doing it. There's always something new to learn, and they're always, making themselves aware of new changes and how to, and procedures and the joy held within these humans. It's love of, it's just so beautiful to see, you know? Anyway, she's one of those.
To learn the anatomy and the morphology. It's not as easy as that, actually. I mean, you're looking at sometimes at things a micron in size, on the surface of the wall to differentiate between the species and so on. So it is quite hard, but it's microscopy, if you like. I love microscopic things, and I loved working with fungi and bacteria.
Why?
Well, they're fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And they're everywhere. Absolutely. I mean, do you realize how many bacteria are on you at this minute, or in you at this minute? And fungi? They're even in your brain.
How does your journey?
And she's like, oh, do you know how many bacteria? They're just fantastic, and they're all in you. They're in you. And fungi, they're even in your brain. She has absolutely no fucking clue. She's terrifying the shit out of most people and gives them nightmares. She's just like, they're in your brain. It's fantastic. You know? She loves it. She has no idea. She's terrifying the shit out of people.
Journey go from there to becoming a forensic ecologist?
When I was an undergraduate, I did botany, zoology.
As an undergraduate, she did botany, zoology, advanced biogeography, bacteriology,
Advanced biogeography, bacteriology,
mycology, geology, because she also does the archaeology aspect of it. I've been like, this woman, bro.
Ology, all the ologies really. And
she knows all the ologies. She's done all the ologies. I love her.
I was ostensibly,
and although I was ostensibly a botanist,
a botanist, I was very lucky at King's because I had a very, very wide interest and there were lots of subjects I could study. And my best subject of all was parasitology.
And her best subject was parasitology, the study of parasites. This is where she loses me. Like, you keep that shit over there, lady.
Oh, I thought I might be a part.
The study of parasites, their host, and the relationship between them. I don't want a part of that. As a farm girl, we were taught, like, no. No. Like, if you're gonna be barefoot and you're gonna want to run hills, there's risks to that, and we're gonna need to make sure when we worm all the critters that all the children are also wormed and things, and it just makes you feel some type of way as a farm kid, okay? Like, they're like, alright, so the cattle are getting it, it's time for your tetanus too, it's time for your fucking wormer. Like, if y'all want to be farm baby kids, and this is, you know, and it just gives you this, like, fear or constant thought of parasites. You know what I mean? Stepping enough cow shit or horse shit or critter shit as a kid. Or live on a farm and like, well, we got chickens, so guess what you're getting is, you know, and all kinds of shit. So you're like, you know, no. Can't get behind the. I can't.
Parasitologist, except.
And at first she thought she was going to be a parasitologist, except that all the research involved harming animals, and she was like, hell no.
That all the research involved in harming animals.
Hello, Mark Barton here from Sandy Hook Promise. On December 14th, 2012.
I think these play for me all the time just because they know JLR's here, and JLR was an asshole and did all the stuff he did at Sandy Hook. I swear they did.
So I couldn't do that. But I eventually ended up as a lecturer at King's, and I lectured in microbial ecology. That's the ecology of.
So she became a lecturer, lectured at King's. Anyway, she lectured in the ecology of fungi and the ecology of bacteria.
Fungi and the ecology of bacteria. But I had the palynology as well. And after 18 years.
And she had the palynology as well, which is the pollen.
King's.
She spent 18 years there and then went to University College. This lady
went to University College, and the palynology I had under my belt.
It's a public research university in London.
I applied in archaeology. Now, I was 16 years at University College working in archaeology, so I learned a lot of archaeology. And basically, what I was doing was reconstructing ancient environments from what I saw under the microscope. And it would bring a whole place alive. And you could see how people were living, what they were eating, and so on. That's what I was doing. Well, when I came into forensics, basically I didn't train as a forensic scientist. I just got a telephone call from a policeman. And they said, we've been to Kew Gardens and they can't help us, but they said you could help us. I said, well, how can I help you? And they said, well, we've got a murder.
So on
And
a random day, she's all like doing her thing, and a policeman calls and he's like, hey. She's like, well, how can I help you? And he's like, we've been to Kew Gardens, and there's been a murder. It sounds so British, and I love it. And he goes, and we know that we have this card.
we know that we have this car and we think it's been in this field, but we can't prove
And we think it's been in a field, or this field, but we can't prove it.
it. And so our boss thought that there could possibly be maize pollen.
And their boss thought there could possibly be maize pollen on it. So this just does it for me. Love it.
It, because it was a maize field. Now that police officer was very intuitive, very clever. How many police officers would think that? So I said, well, I don't know, let's have a look. So I took the car to bits.
She took the car to bits. I love the UK. It's better when we stripped the shit out of this car, just took it down nuts and bolts. This lady says, I took the car down to bits. It sounds so debonair and like there should be fucking crumpets and tea with this process. Not like she pulled some down in 60-second shit. For scientific purposes, of course. It's different when you do it with a degree. And no criminaling. So, I just love it though. So I took this car to bits. Did ya? I love it. It's great. And she goes, and I analyzed just about everything you could analyze in a car. This lady's a go-getter. And I love it.
Analysed just about everything you could analyse in a car, and found that the footwells and the pedals were the most productive and very specific. And when I analysed those, I could see in my mind what I'd been seeing in archaeology. And this was a field edge, a field boundary, and an ancient hedge. So they said to me, would you?
So she found the edges, right, that she was looking for, and yeah, to these pollen pieces that, you know, linked up her. She's like, you know, and yeah. And found them placed on the pedals of the car. They were the most productive and yielded the most source.
Come and look at the place.
And they asked her to come look at the place.
Got there, they said, we'll show you where it was. And I said, I'd love to test myself.
This cop was like, look, we'll show you where it is. She's like, nah, how about, can you just let me test myself? This is wife material, yo. This is wife material.
Can I just tell you where it is? And
can I just tell you where it is? And she goes, and we walked along the edge of the
we
field.
walked along the edge of the field, looking. No. And all of a sudden, I saw what I saw under the microscope. There it was. I said, this is where the body was. And they were utterly shocked, but so was I. because I didn't know we could do that. But when you think about it, I was
I love her.
reconstructing ancient.
She's like, I didn't know we could do that. I do now. I tested myself. I did the thing. And then she's like, well, basically, I was just reconstructing ancient environments based on the field edges and everything and the pollen. And it matched this particular brand. I just love it.
Environments, which this gave me a lot more confidence for that work, because here I had proof. Because you can't prove it in archaeology. And then it was, I could see it, and it was what I saw under my microscope. And that helped to get a conviction, and it was a triad gang, a terrible murder.
And that was used in court to seal a conviction, to get the conviction. Right?
Can you tell me a bit about what happened in the murder?
Well, it was a money laundering case, and it was a man who was given money by this gang, and he'd been asked to buy property. And instead of doing that, he spent the money. They didn't intend to kill him, apparently, but they hog-tied him and put him in the back of the vehicle. And he was a big man, and it collapsed his lungs, and he died. Because hog-tying, you put the hands and legs behind the back, and they lie on their chest, and his lungs collapsed, and he died. Well, then they panicked, and they said, oh, we'll go and dump the body in Wales. But they couldn't find Wales, and they ended up going north to Hull.
These are the worst criminals who ever criminaled. They didn't mean to kill a guy over money laundering. They hog-tied him, accidentally killed him, and then they meant to dump him in Wales, but they couldn't find Wales. As in W-A-L-E-S. They couldn't. How in the... These are the worst criminals that ever criminaled. Anyway, so they end up going north to Hertfordshire.
And they saw this field, and they thought, of course, that it was a remote field. But so they put it in the ditch. Well, of course, it wasn't that remote. And they thought, oh, we've got to get rid of this body. So they set it on fire. Well, what happened is you can't get rid of a body like that at all. The farmer saw the smoke coming up.
Then they tried to set a body on fire and dispose of it that way. Like this lady knows that so a farmer saw the smoke coming up.
What's that in my ditch? Went across and found the body. It was fun doing it, because for what I have to do is eliminate places. I mean, yes, what I found in the car was just like this thing. But supposing there was someone else like it. So I had to go all the places that these people are likely to have been, and nothing matched. And I remember walking down an East London street with two police officers who tried not to look like police officers, but they looked like police officers. And me, with my notebook going like this, writing down all the plants I saw. And all of a sudden I said, we've got to go. And I said, why? We're being watched. And we just had to go. Because some of those things I've done are very dangerous.
Why did you continue to work with the police from
Because
that point?
I just love this lady. I just love her. I don't know who she is, but I love her.
They asked me again,
Yeah.
and again, and again, and again, and again. I mean, they'll have a murder or something, and they'll ring me up and say, we've got a case, can you help? Now, for me, if there's a murder, I need to be there before they touch the corpse, because or approach it too much, because a little bent twig or a footprint in the grass or disturbed leaves all means something to me. Well, a lot of police officers, it's something they don't realise that, and a lot of disturbance goes on. And then I come to the body and I look at the body, but I want to know what's underneath the body, what's around the body. And so, I mean, if it's a burial, I have to look at all the soil in the burial and be there with the archaeologist when they excavate it. So that, because a lot of evidence comes out, tiny little things that people don't notice.
What is it like when you're looking at a body? Are you trying to work out where you can find evidence?
Well, I sample it. When the pathologist takes the bone out, I go in and you've got a plate of bone there. It's called...
And she's talking about the cribriform plate. It's here, and she's talking about you know the autopsy process and getting to where the olfactory is.
The cribriform plate, and it's full of holes, and that's where your olfactory nerves go up into your brain. Now, this is very convenient because when the brain comes out, I've just got this thin plate of bone that.
And I love it because she talks so matter of fact. Like, she's taking energetic because, like, when that's taken in, it's the perfect thing. I can do all the magic things, right? I just, this lady, right?
I can break through and get down into the bones here, which are called turbinates. And they're like coral reefs. They're very complicated. And they're covered in membranes because they warm the air, they trap particles and so on. And I flush them out because anything that's been breathed in will be on them, so I flush them out. And you can get a lot of information from what someone's breathed in. I would look at stains on the body, their fingernails, gut contents from vomit, feces. It all depends, really.
Wow, so you can really look at any part of the body
Oh,
and
yes.
glean
Oh, yes.
information.
Oh, yes.
Amazing.
Well, you have to.
And see, I think that's the way in which most people often think about these things, possibly, or if they even think about them. But the broader way in which this can be used, I don't think is thought about so much by the public or even courts sometimes, whatever, I don't know.
Anywhere that you can get evidence from, you look at.
If you're working 40 to 60 hours a week, making other people rich, and you don't have the time freedom that you need.
And you've worked on a couple of high-profile cases, and one of them was the Soham girls' murder of Jessica Chapman and Holly Wells. Could you tell me a bit about your work on that?
In the first instance, I was brought in before the girls were found. The police were very good there. They got a team of experts together so that when they were found, we'd all be ready to move in. So I would be first in with the corpses. But the police couldn't, when they were found, the police couldn't understand how the perpetrator had actually got into the ditch where he'd put the girls, because there was a bed of stinging nettles about that high as far as the eye could see. And it looked undisturbed. So how did he hop over all these stinging nettles to take two bodies into the ditch? Well, when I walked up and down, of course, I saw a faint path. And I said, this is the approach path. And I could tell that because the nettle had been trodden, but they'd recovered and they'd come back up. So I showed them. And when I showed
So she
them
was
the approach
able to
path,
see
I found Jessica's
that the nettles had actually been trodden down, but then they had stood back up. And then she found the path in, and then she found one of the victims' hair. Right. On a twig.
hair on a twig. So Huntley had probably put on his shoulder, walked in, and her hair got caught on a twig. I went, so that found that path for them. So then they said, well, okay, but how long ago? Well, when I looked at the nettles, I got them out, put them on paper. And when you have a plant, most plants, really all plants.
And then these guys, the police were like, well, shit, this lady's magic. What else could she do? Can you give us a time this happened? This lady was like, what?
They're
Playing around and find out, right?
hormonally controlled from the tip. And the hormones are flowing back and control the growth of the plant. If you destroy that tip or you interrupt it, the flow is interrupted, and all these little side shoots become shoots on their own with their own controlling tips with hormones. And we've got all these side shoots that had grown up. And by looking at the number of places where leaves came up, they're called nodes, on these little side shoots, I was able, from personal experience, to say it's about 2 weeks. But I went away and did a Mickey Mouse experiment. You can't be caught in it.
So she gave him a timeline, around 2 weeks, but she went off and did what she calls a Mickey Mouse experiment because it can't be called a scientific experiment, and that's because there's no real way to recreate the exact environment, moisture content, sunlight, la. You get what I'm saying? So it.
A scientific experiment because you can't replicate all the conditions. But would you believe, after 13 and a half days, stopped the experiment because the nettles had grown exactly the same after trampling them and watching them and so on. And would you believe the girls had gone, from the time they'd gone missing to the time they were found, was exactly 13 and a half days. Now, I did.
So she was dead on, right? 13 and a half days.
Say 13 and a half days, but the nettles from our little experiment showed 13 and a half days. Yeah. But after that, of course, I looked at Huntley's footwear and clothing and car, and there was no doubt about it that he'd been there twice. He had 2 petrol cans because he burned the bodies, and
So she figured out not only this guy been there once, but twice. All that, like.
he put the petrol cans on the verge. And it was quite a job to get these petrol cans from the other forensic scientists because there's nothing on them. And I got full profiles of the crime scene on them because they're charged particles and plastic is charged in, you know.
And because of the plastic material on these gas containers, she's able to, and charge particles and how they attract one another. She got a full profile, whereas the others, they didn't really get much from it, but she got a full profile. And here she goes, ladies. We're all going to go back to the wearing hose. And I can't really get down with that, but
Nylon stockings are fabulous. The pollen will really go onto it on most of your clothing because you're generating electricity all the time, and the pollen will jump on you. And so that's how I got that. So I could.
But you see, that plays into materials and electrical attraction, all these things, and which clothing would pick up most, and just fiber, and all the things. And whether something is mostly on an outside surface of a fabric versus embedded in, and how you'd have to process.
Show that he'd been there twice.
And what was it like testifying in court with Ian Huntley there? Can you tell me about that experience?
Well, the Old Bailey's never nice. I think every forensic scientist that goes to court.
The Old Bailey is the central criminal court for England and Wales.
That is the most difficult part of any part of the work. You go down, you're in the open part with all the marble halls and all the rest of it. You go behind the black curtain and there you are. And it's the world in front of you. You've got all the press there, the public gallery, all the barristers, the jury, And it's quite daunting. It's very daunting. And you've got to have your wits about you because the prosecuting barrister in a prosecution case.
This lady can track down all the killers with a half-bent thistle. She can figure out an exact timeline. That way, she can get a whole profile of Gasky, where nobody else found anything. And court dawns her. She's like, ah!
Is your friend because he will ask all the right questions. The defense barrister asks all the awkward questions and tries to trip you up and tries to diminish you and tries to do all sorts of things. It's very hard, yeah. Nobody likes it, but I've coped so far.
Another high-profile case that you worked on was the Millie Dowler case. What was the investigation like for that?
The skull was lying there, and they said, how long has she been there? I lifted it up, put it down, and I said, since day one. Because she disappeared in March, and this was now September. Underneath the body, the leaf litter was last year's, not this year's. Also, the plants that the skull had been laid on had grown like that. Not only that, all the insects, the sluggy things and creepy crawlies and things, were a natural woodland fauna. All the ones associated with decomposition are gone. Because she.
And I mean, that shows me she obviously, like shit, I mean, entomology plays. I think that's where most people always think when they think remains, they always think of entomology first. And I think it's why we hear about it the most, or why it's, gone for, I just feel like it's got more behind it. And you really do that, buddy. And I feel like it might be something that's reached out for experts in more by LE or things like that than necessarily this. Yeah, and just because it's got a bigger name for itself around, obviously, and it does matter. That does matter a great deal. Where it concerns death, decomp, etc. Environment, and what the bugs have eaten, all these things, right? I like bugs, but anyway, and I hadn't made it this far yet, so we're all finding out what the last few minutes of this is like together, I guess.
Decomposed. So we're now back to the woodland community. And she disappeared in March, and she'd been laying there in March. So I would have thought she'd been there since day one, and then of course she was.
How do you feel working on these high-profile cases? Does it feel different to the other crimes that you helped solve in any way?
Well, there's a lot more pressure from the police, really, because they're very, very anxious to have answers, and they want the answers yesterday, It's a lot of pressure like that. And the high-profile ones are not always the most interesting. Ones you've never heard of, scientifically, are sometimes far more interesting.
What is the most interesting case you've ever worked on?
Get 4 weeks free when you sign up for Uber One for students.
This is how I'm making sure my family's routines stick. I keep track of everything for my family, and I'm on top of it all.
Take a break, lady. You get down. You stop that. No espresso or my bougie for you, buddy. Just gave you your own bougie not that long ago. No, sir. I know what you're up to. You know I know, right? I know you know I know. Mm-hmm. But my thoughts are, it's like, I mean, you could obviously use this about all these. You'd have to find someone like her. That's all the ologies, right? But, I mean, not even necessarily, I don't think. But, if I had to pick someone, it'd be somebody like her versus, you know, just somebody who has like one thing, right? Or two, or whatever. I think it would depend. Um, Boy, you are testing my nerves. Oh, I see what you're doing. This is because we won't play Pop Goes Weasel. You're up. Don't look away. You're up to shenanigans. I know exactly what you're doing. being a dick to me tonight, y'all. Are you a cat or a sheep, sir? What the hell is that? Is that rolling in tonight? Hold on. That's what's rolling in. Like, that was late. Oh, well, I could explain it. Shit, Dirty Sue, what's Google? We don't know. What's Google? How do we find the things? Some days, I tell you what. Are you gonna come over here with your brother? Stop being an ass. Mm-hmm. And tonight, is it? Okay. I thought there was another one tonight. Nope. Okay. I sworn that's what the other said. Anyway. So, my thoughts are it's like, me personally, I would go seek out someone with all the ologies, right? But, um, and who's found joy in what they do. Oh, those are the ones. They'll, whatever they're doing in life, they're the best. I mean, like, stick with those people. Find one of those and stick with them. So anyway, if you think about it, now I'm just hmm, hypothesizing here already. Let's say like, well, I don't want to do it that way. Depending on what things are taken. Um, Initially at a crime scene or an event or whatever, right? Is I mean, like you could have the like instead of just going, okay, this is remains based. Stop. You could use this to, and I'm sure they do. Um, and I think throughout I've heard of, things, but anyway. Um, but generally where it's just like one sport matches this or that. I mean, there's not too many times I can think of where it made major press events or anything like that or court whatever. But um, it you could absolutely, and I'm sure it has been, and I'm sure it is, used to do these things. Alright? But when you have all the ologies, right? And all the things, and you're doing the stuffy stuff, um, you, like on June 15th, say everybody around the area like, all the things were taken. You know what I mean? Clothing, car seats tested, undercarriages of cars. Summer shoes, yeah, all these are things. Her jacket, all these things, right? To say like you find that, well, like, I hate doing it this way. I don't like it. But, uh, you also, I mean, and I'm talking everywhere, say an area, okay? But say you find one person that says they were XYZ, but their clothing is covered in a certain pollen or a certain this, and it's like, wait a minute, but now the fuck? Or, or three people are supposed to be there, two or whatever, right? And for some reason one of them saturated one thing, or the others aren't, or certain particles are on some, but not others. Or say particles or nettles or anything, they're only present on one side of, you know, clothing or whatever, right? I mean, you can take things like this. And yeah, people think, well, what the fuck could it do in some place like Hawkins County or Beechcreek or whatever, right? It's all the same. It's just all the same woods. It's blah, blah, blah. And oh, no, it ain't. Oh, no, it's not. And on microscopic levels, no, I mean, this would absolutely show. Or, I mean, even to, well, those of us who live here, like, you could drive by one guy's hayfield that's touching the other guy's hayfield. And you can tell one guy's seeded his and the other guy's not. It's just a natural growth that they've cultivated over years. It's, you can see that others use fertilizer and some do not. And some use, like, natural based fertilizers. Some use chemical based, all the shit, right? You'll have from, like, say, one hollow will have, it'll be eat up with kudzu. It'll have more pine instead of oak. One will have more beech as opposed to this. Certain hollows will have certain tree diseases in or around them that are affecting, and we had that happening after the fires. Near Chimney Top, certain trees were acquiring certain blight, but only in certain hollows and on certain ridges, and they were releasing spores at that time because of the moisture just coming in, and they released and burst during that time. It was getting very bad. People had not been cutting it back like they should have, but it happened because of the fires. And they were becoming pretty prevalent. They only are on certain types of trees. They only came down and were pushed down certain ridge lines from fire trouble in certain ways. You have, and so you'd be able to tell down to, like, the pollen or seeds or anything off of grass, which hayfield in particular, because of chemical compounds and testing of, say, hay seeds or anything like that, or grass is found on things, which you could easily go and ask the owners of each hayfield, hey, which stuff you use to clear out weeds, keep the hay, but, what do you use to seed, what do you use to, fertilize, is yours that, easily do that. And then, I mean, you'll have certain plants and certain hollows, certain grandmamas, great grandmamas. It's like on 125, man. There were flowers planted there for generations. Generations. And then after, like, Andy's mom, I started planting flowers. So mine are there and all the things, right? But those are, they're particular to that hill. The rest of the areas have, but on each hill or property, you'll have whatever their grandmamas or them prefer growing, right? That And some of them have, look, they get bougie down there. Alright, in them hollers. Some ladies, they got different roses. They get the different things out in their front yards versus other front yards. The spores and pollens on them would travel inside of their hollows. You've got kudzu on this. You've got certain, like, weeds and things. Like, you have spots that you'll hit down through the creek or greenwood, anywhere. And it'll be whole fields full like the Tennessee thistle, or you'll get, you know, like fruit trees and stuff and farms you pass or are near and orchards, and you'll have certain veggies and things that also like do these things. You wouldn't think about it. You're like, oh fuck, it's just all woods and grass. There's no distinction. How in the hell would you ever narrow it down? But you very, very well could. With a lady like this. You could even go, hey, wait a minute. This clothing, for some reason, only on one side or all, like, or some spot on it, it's covered in this, but the other areas are not. What could that mean? Well, it means somebody fell or something was covered up somewhere in blanket areas so that pollen, spores, fungi, whatever, it didn't reach that area. Or it could mean someone fell and it was more saturated in grasses. They were trying to carry something. You know, fabric types would matter. You know, just like she said, static rates, all this. You could also tell. I mean, man, you could pinpoint. You could narrow down. You could also tell traveling in distance. What grows only within certain zones. You could tell who's together, who's not, who wasn't wherever others were. You could tell a great deal of many things. You could go down so far to be like, well, this lady down there in that hollow, whatever, you know, or this, or over near the road, she always uses that blah 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 to grow her roses or her daisies or her wildflowers or whatever her grandmama had. You could narrow this down to someone's yard, hayfield, hollow, ridgeline, if you had the right things. And someone like this lady. I'm going to start a petition that requests that they add all the ologies in to initial crime scene collection. They confiscate everybody's everything. They test all car seats, undercarriages of cars, footwear, all the things. I think it could be very beneficial. But I mean, it goes far. It's like she's talking about archaeology and things, not pleasant. Now, I know that that's where I'm more aware of these sciences and these things that she's talking about is because I love archaeology. Oh, I do. And the study of the ancients. Oh, right? And how pollen and like honeys and all these things and how they just. Okay. I'm not too articulate today, but I promise I am. But any skill I have on that level, it's wasted over here because no matter what, people always be like, we don't understand her. She's dumb. Let them do whatever. I don't care. Anyway, but anything held in storage or evidence, it would last. You could do this with, obviously, for a long time as long as it's stored and taken properly, right? Um, Man, it could. Something like this could very, very, very much pinpoint almost exact locations for any area. Somewhere could possibly be close by. If things were gathered. Possibly it depends, right? And by whom, I guess, and everything. You know. But this, it could also give timelines. Because during certain times of day, right? Uh, we know that certain flowers or trees poof out their pollen or do their things, right? Or certain flowers open up in the morning, some more towards evening. Um, and moisture levels not at play. I mean, you'd have to like work with extension offices if you were going into the future, obviously, and see what weather patterns, what moisture levels, humidity, the time, times of day, the law of flowering plants in the area. Um, and go and look. And you'd also talk to people now because it's been years and be like, what plants do it? Which most of them are still on the shit, obviously in the ground, you know, or they'd still remember which ones they had that were, um, just yearly and everything. And these ladies when they flowers, they get fucking super serious about it. Okay, so they'd be like, yeah, I had this perennial or this annual and blah blah, and I got it. You know what I mean? And you could also track down soil content. I mean, just everything by that, right? Off of shoes and everything. Because around here, even from hill to hill or hollow or anywhere, you're gonna have different types of dirt. Um, and whether people have backfilled through the years, whether they've just kept it with natural ground, you'll have rock formations more one area. They make like there's so much, even for soil and testing of it. You could track it down to people who had their yards, landscape versus and this, that. I mean, you could. Oh my God, you could. And, like ginseng and leaf spring, all these berries and, oh, mosses and all the plant life here. And what grows in the shadow of hills versus the bright sunlight, and which side of the valleys, and the trails, and and the low line or the creek or more moisture areas or the riparian corridors, or if like there's some plants and things that'll thrive more with horse manure or cow shit near them, which would mean they'd be closer to certain streams or areas of that or this or fungi, obviously, and cow shit. So it could tell you whether the soil held any of those parts, anything. But people would probably look at Beech Creek or Hawkins or anywhere here and be like, it's all fucking woods and mountain. It's all the same. No, it's not, man. No, it's not. Each hill and valley and hollow and each person's property and their yard and their hayfields and all that. It's so vast and different. And the plant life on each and the you know. you could narrow down. But this lady and a collection of things. You know, she makes me happy. Science makes me happy. The beautiful people make me happy. And my mind just goes, with all the things. I'm like, yes, I was thinking of it like in Aztec terms yesterday, but let's do it this way today. I know, I know all the ologies could be used. And see, that's how science and the beautiful people do it. Real experts. Not asshole YouTubers with drones. But yeah, like, my mind goes, man, can we just open the door to Narnia and go right back to 15 and be like, dear everybody, can you just take everybody's everythings? Swab it. Can you just take swabs, all the arms, legs, faces, clippings, just do all the things. You know? And I think they should start making it protocol to where nasal swabs happen. Um, of everyone in the round events. Just because that could hold. Like, she's talking about, you breathe in and out, there's particles, obviously. The information there, like, everybody has different breathing rates, of course, nasal passages, moisture matter, blah, blah, I get that. But, if, like, say you have some murder out here, 3 people, or, like, no, we weren't with that guy, but then everybody's nose is filled with the same strange pollen from somebody's flowering fucking plant at a house they did whatever to. Then you know better. You get what I'm saying? And so, I think these things could be very useful, and I think we should be hearing about them more being used in cases more. Um, and obviously, I'm sure they'd be railing about microscopic matches and this here, because I know there's a great deal of discrediting about hair and fiber and microscopic matches and all that for that. And I can't necessarily disagree with that in ways. But this is finer, right? You can test the actual samples. You can test the strength of. You can do things to a finer tuned point then. And and then when you would get to a scene, or like, say if you used it in a way that you were narrowing down and locating somewhere someone could be. And then when you get there and say if they are indeed there, whatever, well then, uh, sort of played out the way it should, right? And then you would also have, obviously, entomology at that point playing its role, just like she was talking about, and soil samples there. You have the testing, etc. I mean, and then that would play out, and then you'd be able to test the remains that way with all the logistics, which that's always sort of the thing. But I mean, oh, what a beautiful thing. Science. and how things can be used to put together ancient civilizations and, you know, past and history and what people ate, what they did, the things they grew, what they're buried in. Sure, I mean, all these things, and then even in modern day, can be used. And to help current events, right? And in real time. Um, some It's a beautiful thing. Just your brain sparks and it goes. Can we open the door to Narnia? Can we get a DeLorean in here? Can we go back? And everybody take all the things from everyone, everywhere. Just to see where everybody's been, if everybody's been separate, together, traveled in the same locales. Some are more saturated with this, some are more saturated with that. Certain ones not present on. This, that, and the other. I mean, you wish. But you never know what's held, what's already done, what's already. But it's just hoping that, I don't know, all the little things. Right? All the little. Anyway, now that I'm finished grunting like Tim the Toolman Taylor at this lady who's made me joyous today, while I do not feel my greatest in the least, I guess I'll let the last few minutes of this play, or I could just do the link, and y'all can share, go watch it yourself. She's getting into sort of the murdery bits, it looks like, and honestly, I don't. Just not. You know. It's not my thing. And they're showing pics, I just.
Well, each one has got something, you see, of interest, so it's really difficult. I mean, the Ipswich sex workers was interesting because there were 5 corpses. There was 5 lots of things to find out, and that was interesting. For example, I found out from the first corpse that you continue to suntan 18 hours after death.
How did you discover that?
Well, because she had a cigarette.
She was so excited about that. Her mouth, she was like, figured out you suntan for as long as 18 hours after death. She finds joy in what she does, man.
sycamore leaf on her leg. When I took it off, there was a white sycamore leaf. So tanning had continued.
You have revisited training throughout your career, and one of the things I was interested in asking you about was the body farm. What is a body farm, and why did you go to a body farm?
There are now 12 in America. There was only one when I went there in Tennessee. There's one in Canada.
Yeah, the body farm here in Tennessee is the first and the most famous. Here, the waiting list is like 300 years long to donate yourself to that place these days. Has been since like the 90s after documentaries and stuff came out. Better find another body farm if that's your goal when you die. That's all I'm saying.
There's one in Australia, and they're just starting up one in the Netherlands, but not quite like the others. And this one was set up by Bill Bass, who was an anthropologist, and the police used to go to him and say, "Tell us how long this person has been dead." And he said to them, "Look, I can't, until I've got some evidence, I just don't know." So he said, "If you give me some land and I can put bodies on it and watch them, I might be able to help." And that's what happened. And they gave him about an acre. And basically they lay the bodies out in all sorts of conditions and they just see what happens. What flies come in.
And that just sounds so measly to me. I'm a size queen. I can't help it. But in the South, when you tell a girl you own an acre, girl's gonna be like, you only own an acre? Is that even enough to park your truck on? My car and your truck ain't gonna fit in that driveway. Tell you mean you only got an acre. For us, an acre ain't shit. Like, fuck do you mean you only got an acre? One? One. That's it? One doesn't seem substantial enough to me to put bodies on, keep them separate, keep them cross contaminated. It just doesn't. Okay? Let alone for anything else. But somebody out there somewhere was initially given an acre of whatever. Cross contaminated.
What fungi come in, how long does it take for someone with this medication to rot? What fabrics rot? They put them in water, tanks of water. Is it different in water? They might stick one in a car. How long does it take for it to decompose in a car? Is it different in a car from outside? They bury some. I mean, they try everything and then they watch what happens. What is interesting is that the main contributors are middle-aged to old-age white men, and they've usually got pacemakers and on drugs and all the rest of it. You very rarely get women. You virtually never get children. You don't get many Hispanics, and you get virtually no black people. So it's a relatively select sample.
So you work in exoneration cases as well. How does it feel to work on a case that's, proving that somebody's not guilty of a crime that they may have been?
Well, that actually is particularly satisfying because it's awful to think that an innocent person would go to prison. Because whatever I do, it has implications. And so you have to be very careful, very, very thorough. And you can't make any glib statements. You really have to be very careful. There's a case of a baby that they accused.
And she's human. And she doesn't just, like, it's like that. She could be just totally into the job doing it and not still care about other humans or the broader, if she's wrong, right? But she is. She's acutely aware and wants to make sure she's absolutely correct so that nobody innocent goes. And that speaks volumes about her character, I think. And, because a lot of people, and like, in their careers around justice, they're like, I'm a rate of this, I'm a rate of that, some anyway, and they're like, I'm that, and you just hear expert and you go with it, and, so it's like, look at these assholes over here on YouTube. Bro, I wouldn't hire these experts to change a damn diaper, let alone work a case. Like, it's probably why they on fucking YouTube. Trying to sell books and fucking deception. It's fucking stupid over here on YouTube. YouTube. Anyway. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? They don't give a shit. Look at Circle Square over there. Exhibit A. Your honors.
The mother of trying to kill it. Because she thought this baby was taken into hospital very poorly and kept going back and forth to hospital. And she vomited these little black dots into a napkin. And it got thrown away. The next time it vomited, they were kept, but it was put in the fridge and that was lost. But she vomited a third time, and this time someone kept them, sent them to the Forensic Science Service, who did all sorts of complicated chemistry. And it just came out as carbon, nitrogen, all the usual things. So they gave them to me and they said, we think these are poppy seeds because the father's a baker and we think the mother's putting poppy seeds in. They weren't poppy seeds, I could see that. But they could have been fungal bodies that I didn't recognize. So I went to Kew, to the Mycological Institute, I suppose, which was at Kew, and asked the mycologist there, do you think this is fungal in origin? And they said, don't think so. And I didn't think so either. But there was the expert, you see. And while I was looking at these things, I noticed there was a red halo around these black dots. And of course, milk has got a lot of fat in it. So I realized that whatever was in these little black dots was fat soluble. So I put some in water, nothing came out. Put some in fat, the red stuff came out. And I realized they weren't biological, they had no structure. They were just absolutely little round spherical things. And I was trying to rack my brains to think what it was that looked like that. And the only thing I could think of was, you know, when you have time release capsules and there are lots of little bubbles of drug inside? And that's what it was. And when I went back to the police, they went back to the hospital. And what was so stupid was that one doctor came forward, so yes, I prescribed this anti-reflux drug for the baby, and that's what it is. That doctor knew. Another doctor didn't. A nurse didn't know. They hadn't told the police. It was all miscommunication. Now, that poor mother could have been charged with all sorts of things. When they investigated the baby further, it had brittle bone disease. They thought she had Munchausen by proxy syndrome, and she was really making her baby ill. And the poor woman wasn't. You know, it's interesting things like that, you see.
Can you tell me a bit about
I mean, that's pretty amazing, you know? All the ologies. Right. Oh, Irony's on shenanigan time. I'm on the struggle bus, I think. I'm gonna share the link here in chat. You know, in the community wall. So y'all can watch it, share it, finish it up on your own. Okay. think I'm gonna rest. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna listen to the Cats Annihilates my cinnamon rolls and each other, I suppose. I love that my cats walked on the cinnamon rolls. They go and shit. Appreciate that, dude. They just built like that. Ernie is a madman. A madman. The cat. Not the actual one over here on YouTube. Anyway, Hurricane over here is on top of it. He's trying to keep his worldwide top score for litter boxing. I don't know. It's his favorite thing in the universe. I don't know. They're in a competition currently. What is it, baby hurricane? He's yelling at his brother right now. He's trying to entice him to play and do all the shenanigans. He's like, "No, it's not feeling like right. Let's do the things. It's time for the zooms. So, yeah. Anyway, y'all. I'm out. I'm back later. I'm gonna rest for a bit. Try to ignore any more bullshit. There were a couple of things we'll touch on here, but definitely not right now. And I just can't do it, Captain. You know. And I'm gonna try to ignore any more fuckery and whatever. Cause you know there's always shenanigans around here. The falsely pumped up ones of that do. I do love those. Very telling. Rinse, repeat. Been sort of keeping an eye on it for weeks, though. And places it's happening, especially that, yeah, it's fine. I'll get to it in a few days. Anyway, y'all know the song and dance. The psycho YouTube true crime streets. You know how it rolls. Anyway, some of the stuff out in the world politics is definitely, but, oh yeah, don't turn on the news if you feel like you're gonna have a stroke or anything today. Because the renaming of places to be like the Ministry of Black Magic's happening now. That's fucking regime-like. And then you got the, VOA being taken out. Today, I think they fired half of, like, CDC, Health and Human Services. It's fucking alright. Alright? And, man, if you seen the front page of our local newspaper yesterday, and then you see what was packing facilities yesterday. I don't think you'd be alright with it, but hey, world seeming, and then now there's fucking papers up about measles. Fucking year we living in right now. 19 fucking 22. Fuck is this shit? That's what's happening. That's where we're at. Might as well be like 40 to 45 at this point. Ridiculous bullshit. Lord help us all. Right? Anyway. That language normalization and the renaming of already named things to things that have certain rings from the past and history to them. And the whistles. It's all here, my dude. You just gotta pay attention. Okay, so what the hell? Is the storm behind or am I behind? I just sworn they said that was fine. Ryan Hall's over here. He's got it close to his agency. Maybe it's tomorrow. Wish it was tonight. Anyway, guys, I'm out here. Y'all have a good morning, good evening, and good night. And as always, please do share the DV/Universal Hand Signal for help. And continue to always share Summer's picture information and call her by her name. And y'all know what I mean by information. I don't mean YouTube, social media, source of, reporters, Intons, blowhorns, Graces, JLRs, BKs, fucking BG, none of those. I mean, local surrounding police agencies, state police, TBI, FBI. Remember her Q&A with the feds? Her and several others across Tennessee, Sebastian, and Layla. I think 3 of the 4 have Q&As with the feds. Others are in local police departments. And the more you read those, make yourself aware of the less YouTubians from the 75% Trollmeister over there. Haha, I'm sorry I had to have a joke. It can fuck with you and lead you around and take advantage of you or feed you Kool-Aid or bullshit in and around all these active and ongoing cases. But so that especially helps, but also sharing it out as a source of info. News articles from real reporters and real investigative journalists like Ansley and Bobo, places like, and the news, real news sources, WJHL, WCYB, Hawkins News, even over on YouTube, which is Jeff Bobo's, and Times News Online, Kingsport Times newspaper, did I say Rogers Root, Bristol Herald, Jump City Press. I mean, there are so many beautiful sources of real information and factual-based information by real hearts and minds, and no tragedy pimps allowed, right? So you can always share any of those links and rotate them out every so often as you share her flyer type info, the basics on her height, weight, her pictures, and rotate that link out so that maybe certain info at certain times might hit the right ears, eyes, all the things, and might lead somebody to an aha or a key drop or a wait a minute, and it might be the very thing still needed. If anything's needed, who knows? And, it could even lead to the outing or arrest or captures or whatever of the person or persons responsible. If you truly and really want to help a summer, that's how. And same applies for Sebastian, Layla, and Holly, and especially since this same well-organized group of buffoons violating federal laws working in and around active and ongoing cases for many years and destroying real lives around victims, survivors, fighters, their communities, law enforcement, courts, etc. Um, yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna go. Sort of. Y'all have a good morning, good evening, and good night. Enjoy this vast cosmos. Dance is always be a good pebble and spark. In a voice where you can. share Summer, Sebastian, Layla, and Holland's information.